Yo guys, today I ran 4 miles and I did meet all my goals. I found that there's a lot of techno tracks that are right around 9:15. I've just been clicking around based on the title. I haven't been sorting them by length very much this week, and a lot of them wind up being 9:14 or 9:20. I haven't really seen any between 8:55 and 9:05, and so I feel like that is because the tempos that are popular to use within the structures that I have found through my research then lead them into that zone. And I knew there were a lot of dips and troughs in the histogram of length of techno, as it were. Maybe you guys can help me out by introducing me to some other genres that give me a better spread of different track lengths, because in terms of athletics, I would like to have more flexibility rather than kind of jumping directly from 9:15 to 8:45. Although that's somewhat of what I did today by changing my route to 4 miles. I was able to be at a somewhat faster pace, and I didn't really have to think too hard about running or even pushing myself. I was kind of thinking about some personal stuff today because the server that I am using to host wayswemage.com is facing a possible service interruption tonight. The project that I built around this book, Ways We Enjoy Magic Cards, has not really earned any income, so it seems like my attempt to bootstrap that as a business may be drawing to a close. I'm a little undecided about whether to see myself as switching gears. Yesterday I talked about how when you're in alignment, things seem to happen right on time, and so today, if my service is interrupted on that server, it will give me the ability to focus completely on an iOS project. And today is also the day that the new version of iOS is going to be launched, so that does seem to be happening right on time in that sense. And in terms of being in alignment, I have always believed that working on iOS is inherently more profitable than working on the web. So I'm open to that. I'm trying not to associate any pain with the lapsing of that project, even though I do have regret that no one was able to see the beauty of the technology that I created, both for the publishing platform and for the list platform. I thought there was some really not only clever but also very useful ideas that were baked into that. I'm getting off topic here. Anyway, the structure of the data is what I was referring to, the data architecture for the publishing platform and for the list platform. And you can see that stuff on GitHub. You can go ahead and check it out. I'm not going to tell you exactly where, but you'll find it. If you are a developer and you want to give me some feedback on that code, that would be wonderful. Take a look at it, tell me what you think. So today I was thinking a lot about what I said yesterday about like how when you're asking for somebody's permission / forgiveness, it doesn't always make sense to ask after the first. Sometimes it makes sense to kind of space it out and ask after the third time you've experienced something, or possibly even more. And that's not meant to be advice so that you can go and screw up and not ask for forgiveness. It's just meant as an observation of what sometimes happens when people interact with each other. And I was thinking about the frequency, and so today over my coffee I was realizing that type of lower frequency doesn't just make sense for discussing boundaries, it also makes sense for evaluating things. And I've always believed that if you can defer evaluation, that usually leads to a better apprehension of what's actually going on. If you, like, for instance, like when you go to a restaurant, A typical experience is that the server will ask you if you like the food after you've just managed to take your first bite. And I'm not criticizing people who are in that role, in that industry. I'm sure they have their reasons for doing things the way that they do. Maybe because that is a time when you're liable to be enjoying it because you just get that first taste of it. And they want to kind of imprint that enjoyment on you. And it's also amazing when you have service that is attentive and that there's not too much of a delay between when you have a need and when you get service. But on the other hand, sometimes it's nice to have a little moment of reflection before you evaluate something. And so I was thinking about how, so there's a couple topics that I can wrap into this. I guess I'll just go straight for it. So this morning I saw Mashable write, like, beware of the iPhone upgrade plan. And so I read the article, and basically the only thing that I could glean from it is that they said, like, if you one day want to switch to Android, this will make it slightly harder. As far as my advice, you should absolutely go for the iPhone upgrade plan. You pay like 40 or 50 bucks a month and you get a new phone every year. It's totally incredible. And so I was like, okay, well, they're not saying that you might want to switch to Android. They're saying if you realize that you will never want to switch to Android, then we will have to find something else to write about. And I do think it's tragic how much energy that industry spends on trying to grasp at the possibility that Android might be usable. So this made me think, like, okay, well, ultimately it does make sense to reevaluate iPhone at some interval. It doesn't have to be every year, but maybe every 3 years you can be like, okay, let's take a good look at this. Is Android viable? Is Android preferable? And the reason that I have had such an easy time counting it out over the years is because I know that it's built on technology that's much younger. There's another reason. So the younger thing, so iOS is built on the kernel of OS 10. And so I always thought of it as like the platform is like 30 years old. Now it's probably like 35. Whereas Android was built on HipTop, which was the T-Mobile sidekick. Ironically, they built a Linux thing on top of a Java code base, which never made sense to me, and that's probably a red flag. But like, even apart from their technology choices, which does actually bubble up into the culture a lot more than a lot of people assume, but the youth of the platform is related to its instability. And also the fact that Google hoodwinked everyone into thinking that it was open when actually they were locking it down in a ton of nefarious ways, and how their culture, as someone who claims don't be evil as an excuse to just forgive themselves for everything that they do and never look critically at their own work, that's the culture of Android. Google didn't create Android, but they stole it. They're like, oh, we're good guys, don't be evil, so we're gonna take this and we're gonna let everyone sing our song about how open it is, while we actually grab all of the pressure points and lock them to our own platform. And I think, like, philosophically, those are some of the reasons why Android is weak, and until it addresses those issues, it probably won't be important for anyone who, is serious about getting their work done to reevaluate it. I guess there are a few professionals that use Android who benefit from some particular tool that it has, but for most people, it would be a big waste of time to use Android. And the the runway for how long we can go without reevaluating that seems to be pretty long. So I was thinking also about Magic. So there's a new platform called Arena, and a lot of people are wondering, is this going to be the end of MTGO? Because they have collections of cards in MTGO that they might like to liquidate for actual cash. So it makes sense why people are wondering about this, for sure. And the answer is that Wizards doesn't know if what Arena is going to end up supporting, and the product is too young for them to say what it's going to be, which is an incredibly mature thing for them to say, really. It seems like they have, learned a lot from their stewardship of technology. A lot of people thought, like, oh, this company can't handle technology, but what they've done is they've opened the kimono, they've done what everyone asked, they're like, here is what we're thinking. And so now everyone is saying, like, okay, well, we don't believe you. We want to know, like, is MTG going away? And they're like, we don't know. And so people are saying, like, it's funny because everyone before the announcement was kind of saying, don't work on a new product, just work on making MTGO better. And now that the new product has been out for like 4 days, just a couple preview videos of it and nothing more really, everyone is saying, like, oh man, like, I'm worried that MTG is going to go away. And so this is making me wonder, like, is MTGO the iPhone in this scenario and Arena is the Android, which may be good at capturing people's hearts, but it's actually a much younger and flimsier platform that will not be able to satisfy people's actual needs. So I think that there may be something to learn from that analogy, but it's technologically speaking and culturally speaking, it probably doesn't carry the same baggage. So it will make sense to periodically reevaluate things, and what that periodicity should be for, and like, this is not really a either or option yet, so we have a long period of data gathering ahead of us before we need to make any sort of evaluation whatsoever, right? So this is kind of a question, like, should you evaluate things before they're released? And for a very small number of professional analysts, the number may be yes. I understand that people want to evaluate Apple because they want to be able to predict what's going to happen in the business world. But for most people, it seems like the process of evaluating something before it's released is going to give you a very, very, very slight return on your investment of time. And it will be more likely to give you a data point that's leading you in the wrong direction. I guess, like, one thing, just to kind of bring this back to the run, one thing that I have been experiencing is that, like, my watch tells me my current mile pace. And today, like, when I first looked at the watch, it said the pace was 9:29, and then when I next looked at it, it said the pace was like 7:48, and I was like, how could my pace change so much? It might have, but I would kind of like it if it was giving me an average over a longer distance so that the average wasn't changing so quickly. So that kind of opens the question of, like, maybe I could have two paces. One is the pace that I've been at over the last 10 seconds. The other is the pace that I've been at over the last minute. And that kind of also opens the possibility that I could, like, be looking at the gradient, like the rate of change, the impulse, as it were, or the acceleration, or both. So being able to have some feedback from those higher order observations feels like it would help me to evaluate my progress, and it might let me get down to the frequency of evaluations that are going to actually help me adjust my pace at the right moments. So, you know, I believe in the platform, and I believe that it has gone through enough testing to give the type of feedback that is most healthy for me. So maybe there's more that I can learn from this interface as I continue to experience it. Then again, today is the day when the interface will be changed. I'll download the update, and although I probably won't be able to because I haven't paid my iCloud bill. But yeah, it's really frustrating that you can't even update things when you're behind on the bill. It's a nasty security glitch too, and I worry that as our economy changes, this is going to become a meaningful vector for hackers to acknowledge. All right, I think that might be a good place to sign off for today. It's a pretty exciting day. I guess I'll just mention this first. So when I said, like, when you're in alignment, things happen at the right time. So I feel like it would have been kind of a nice story if I went like, okay, well, it's down to my last day. This is the time to get the book, or you will never have another chance again. And then for it to have enough like groundswell of support that I could move on. I think the reason why I'm not in alignment is partly related to the fact that there's two plans that have been on my mind for weeks that I haven't done. One is to make a video where I show you the numbers. So I show you how many hits I have on Google Analytics. I show you how many hits I have on Stripe, how many purchases have been processed. I show you how many hits I have on YouTube. And there may have even been one more. I could show you how many likes I have on Facebook, whatever. Like, I wanted to show, like, look, even if you put months and months of effort into something, and even if you buy Google ads and Facebook ads, you might still have a really slow start. So I wanted to make that video to kind of try to be encouraging and modest at the same time. I didn't get around to that. The other thing that I wanted to do is make a video where I show potential authors how to write a book on the platform and how to edit a book on the platform. And I haven't got around to that because there's a couple lagging interface issues. So I got the interface almost ready to do that. There's a couple things that I still want to perfect even more. So was I being too perfectionist? It's quite possible. Was I holding back from doing development because I've gotten to this habit of trying to like webcast all my development sessions? I mean, I kind of said that I wasn't going to do the styling ones, but then I was like, well, styling might be useful too. I don't know. I'm struggling with how open to be, and I think when I, like I said, when you get to the boundaries, sometimes it's like with these. When I finished my run today, there was a lawnmower, so I had to walk over here. I was like, okay, this means I'm on the boundary of how much I can take for granted. And now there's like a lawn equipment over here. Then like, okay, like this is kind of people. They're not testing the boundaries. I mean, obviously they're within their good graces to do work on their yard, but it kind of was symbolic to me. And I thought about how yesterday in the caption I said, discussing the boundaries where the energy is densest. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting phrase. Is that true? What does it mean? What do I mean by that? And so I was thinking, like, does that mean that that boundaries actually have more gravity than the grass on the other side? Like, Does it mean like when you go there, you're gonna kind of create this gravitational bounce that will then kind of slingshot you into the next zone? And I think it kind of does. Like when you're on the boundary, there's a lot of tension and energy, and if you can't handle it, then you're gonna want to go onto one side or the other. And maybe it's also true that there's a gradient, right? So once you get past the center, it's easier for you to cross the boundary than it is for you to go back into the comfort zone. So let me know what you think of that. And I think I am going to pursue those 2 videos that I just described in the meantime between now and the Apple announcement, which is going to be starting in about 2 hours. So see you there. Thanks a lot for coming to my channel.